Muy buena gente, empezamos. Si no recuerdo mal, esto es la parte final. Y nos falta para descubrir estos tres más la plataforma aquella que no sé lo que es. Supongo que deben ser DLCs. Vamos ahí con Parvati y Nioka. Antes que nada. Bueno. Tiene buena pinta. Vamos a subir. Talentos.
Great work.
Vámonos. Sí, había algo ahí a la derecha, pero ya pasó. Vamos, vamos, vamos. Que me descalabro ahí, ¿eh? Antes que nada, vamos a descargar peso.
I so enjoy watching you sleep for hours.
Quedamos muy cargados.
Hours on end, Captain. It's quite entertaining the way you drool and whimper.
Gracias. Dicen que cuando babeo y gemoteo, pues es divertido.
Captain, as it appears we may soon be embarking for a maximum security prison planet, I believe the crew would like to speak with you to... as...
Amo.
Phineas, locked up in Tartarus? We cannot let this stand. That...
Mr. Phineas is just about the only person with power trying to do any kind of good in Hacion. We gotta bust him out.
To extract the scientist, you will need to infiltrate the labyrinth. But that course of action is likely to be quite dangerous, Captain. I am programmed to warn you whenever you exhibit inclinations toward risky behavior. Breaking into Tartarus will not be easy.
Getting in is the simple part. It's getting out again that's the trouble.
Let's just do it. Kick down some doors, grab Doc Wells, and cut a path out. We don't need a plan.
If you really mean to do this, you should see to your final affairs and close out any unfinished business.
It's the craziest plan, and I mean that.
You didn't hire me to think. And I ain't about to start now. You're my boss.
I think it's insane, but maybe the colony needs...
I know it's dangerous. And I won't lie and say I'm not scared out of my wits.
You're asking for more than bravery from us, Captain. But there are worse ways to...
Let Sam get the grime out. It's what our...
The entire plan is a terrible idea, but I admire your bravado, Captain, which leads me to a...
We gonna prepare? Sure. Guess I could give my ass-kicking boots.
The fewer folks we got to hurt, the better. Maybe on our way out, we let...
Sure, boss. You do the talking. I'll pack a few...
Can we talk?
Hawthorne, if you're getting this.
Ya hemos desbloqueado Tártaro, pero nos falta aún Tifón, Hefesto y esto de aquí. Haremos por si
I
acaso.
am pleased to inform you that we have arrived at the labyrinth. Please be advised that the punishment for trespassing... Please be advised that electrical storms on the surface of Tartarus make depart... Resident count is as follows. 3,071. Resident depth. The interior can be chilly. I would also ask that you leave your captain's ID with me. In the... I can make the assurance that I will not leave with another captain, unless you... Oh, speak of the devil. Captain, I am receiving...
Attention, unauthorized spacecraft. This is a maximum security installation. You are hereby confined to your docking platform until a ticket detailing your crimes has been filed and notarized, at which point your... I wager it'll take a bit longer than it takes you to lose your patience and storm out of your ship looking to get shot. To be honest, that'd make my job a lot easier. You come out, we shoot you full of holes, and then everyone goes about their day where... All right, I'm feeling generous. I'm transmitting the idea of a productive lab. Anyway, Tartar Stalking Authority signing up. Wait, is that from the Groundbreaker? What the? Pay no mind to that, just...
Transmission terminated. Biometric ID received. How can I be?
A ver.
To return in 1.
Arbati. Nioka. Te necesito a ti, pero esta vez. Arbati Vicario. Son los dos que más empatizan, creo, con la misión.
If I still believed in the grand plan, a revelation like this would have... Knowing you? Yes, of course. You're a bit... So. Because... Are you... How... I wouldn't... I could... I was...
The captain did right by us once. Now it's our turn. The board will never own Groundbreaker. Not while I breathe. Push on, Mardad.
Take them down! What's that noise? Open fire!
No me acordaba. Sabía que había algo de la falible, pero no sabía que venían a ayudarnos. La estamos petando, ¿eh?
Nicely done.
Creo que los de la Pionera han muerto todos, ¿no? Mi intención es matarlos a todos.
Entering the labyrinth's the easy part. Making it back out. I'm still trusting your plan on that one, Captain.
Mi plan es matarlos a todos, no dejar a nadie vivo. Este es mi plan.
I suppose it would be too late to back out now, huh? Fear not, Captain. I'll watch your back.
Looking good, soldier.
Soy un soldado corporativo. Y todo esto me pertenece. No me deja saltar. Puta madre. Que no nos hace falta saquear, la verdad. Porque ya estamos al final. Pero es que lo llevamos en la naturaleza. Somos piratas. Es lo que quiero yo vender. Porque esto...
Huh? What? Not. Are you new here? I didn't think we were. Much.
Ah, tengo 2 oportunidades más. Vale. Coño. Es que... A ver. Uno de cada, ¿no? Hay aquí. Sí. Uy, que no podremos terminar hoy. Uh.
All right, MSI.
I'm not one for rousing speeches, but the captain needs our help. So get in there and fight!
Stay down. Company ammo.
Waste the company ammo.
Captain, have your back, Captain.
A ver. A ver, que creo que hemos patinado. Que le hemos dado a alguien sin querer. Ese es el problema. Y se nos han quedado en contra. El MSI... son los del... Si no me acuerdo mal, las de aquí el planeta. El del Sandahar o Abdujan, o como se llame. Vale. Entonces volvemos a hacer... a coger todo esto, porque si no nuestro personaje es como si no hubiera hecho nada. Porque realmente no ha hecho nada. Tenemos que ir por allí. Ahora entraban los...
All right,
¿Ves? El Sanjar, ¿ves, Nandi?
I'm not one for rousing speeches, but the captain needs our help. So get in there and fight!
Fine bonus.
Pues tenemos el MSI de nuestro lado. Vale. Tenemos a la pionera de nuestro lado. No voy a coger la leche, tíos.
Well, look who it is. I'll be damned. I was prepping the studio for our announcement, and here you are as... I had heard you'd taken a mechanic under your wing. What's the matter, girl? Couldn't find actual employment?
The captain's treated me right. Better than any of you bored folk ever have.
And the convicts. The vicar. You know,
Oh, I would go anywhere to see you fall.
when you go off and get yourself shot, try to avoid taking one to the face. I'll want it recognizable to shoot. My word! You've correctly identified them. It's a wonder what Phineas saw in you. Then again, he's an insane person. Thankfully, he's our insane person now. Yes, he is an extraordinarily obstinate fellow, isn't he? Fine, he isn't working for us per se, but that's between us. As far as my adoring citizens will know, we've turned a dangerous crackpot into a working class. Oh yes, go on, wake them up, add more mouths to feed. That'll so— I don't know what half-baked plans that simpleton in a lab coat has been leading you through, but it's Let me ask you something, Captain. Have you at any point thought about not fucking up our entire society? I'm making actual progress towards stabilization and Oh, right. This coming from the psychopathic outlaw. Yes, we don't. We'll have to agree to disagree on that one, Captain.
We're still alive.
No me termina de convencer matarlo.
We've got your back, Captain!
We're really doing this, huh?
Everything in my life has been leading up to this point. I am, I believe I'm ready for this.
Captain, you have an uncanny talent.
Es
You've disrupted the balance of power.
mi virtud.
You've upset the natural order of things. You've introduced uncertainty, and there is nothing I despise. I'm afraid I can't do that. To your credit, Captain, you are one of the colony's finest special. For all your talents, you are the enemy of Hacion. You make a nuanced and compelling... Dr. Wells is being held in my custody. His cooperation will prove invaluable. All that's left to do is put down this riot, arrest you, and then get on with the blood... Fair enough. I'm giving you... Yes, I'm quite aware of your brazen act of corporate vandalism. By the way, those tests... My scientists assure me they can recover the data you've destroyed. You've succeeded. That isn't true. That experiment was absolutely essential to the program. Don't you mock me. We're going to have to start all over again. All that research, You were always an unknown variable. I tried to recruit you, but... This prison is equipped with an automechanical warden. I've had it programmed to eliminate... And don't worry. I will inform Dr.
No hay problema. ¿Por dónde salgo yo ahora? Tengo que ir ya, que ya estamos... cómo accedo allí? Por aquí. ¡Qué puta! Madre mía, que no había visto la puerta.
Why won't you just die?
Everyone all right?
Get me out of here!
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. Her death was much deserved, and long overdue. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just to rescue one doddering old man. I'm all right, thanks to you. Akande wanted my cooperation. I'm quite sure. You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony, and you saved my life. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Hacion. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they...
Earth is only an idea to us. But that idea is the bedrock the colony is built upon. If people were to find out it's gone dark...
I don't want to imagine what'll happen once news gets out. But...
You mean... we're all alone out here?
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Hacion is the only home we have left. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Hacion? We can't rely on Earth for support anymore. Yes, we do. You've done a marvelous thing. We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the Hope's brightest minds. And then we're going to fix this. We're going to need a leader. And I can't imagine a better person for the job. When I revived you, I thought you were going to help me save... I had our roles reversed, you see. You're the one who's going to save us all. You're the best thing to ever happen to Hacion. If you want to take it upon you... We're not a colony any longer, are we? Our last connection to Earth has been severed. Our future is uncertain, and no one knows...
Bueno. Voy a ser el líder de la colonia.
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Hacion was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists. Engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Hacion. The people of Hacion were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation. but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually
Muy
became
bien.
entirely
¿Ves? Eso del
self-sufficient.
MSI lo hice bien, de apoyarlo veo.
In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have
Un poco
starved.
mentiroso era ese tío, pero coño.
Consumed by paranoia, Lilia Hagen took Sublight Salvage in a controversial direction, openly accusing board officials of an extraterrestrial conspiracy. One day, an accident at the Groundbreaker's docking bay silenced her forever. Time would tell if her replacement could keep the Sublight family together. The collapse of Edgewater left its workers bereft of any purpose in life. Most of them made their way to Adelaide McDevitt's camp, hoping to ingratiate themselves into her favor. Adelaide accepted only a few to her community. The rest were turned away and likely died of starvation. Nevertheless, Adelaide's camp grew into a well-established town. Adelaide McDevitt refused to cooperate with the ongoing effort to save Hacion from collapse. A sympathetic deserter stole a copy of her research and delivered it to the Hope's scientists. It is unclear how useful Adelaide's research was. An optimistic estimate suggests her work may have bought Hacion another few years of survival.
Y creo que hice lo
would never
correcto, ¿eh?
know.
Y
She
están
died
muy...
that winter.
También lo entiendo, ¿eh?
Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her
Pionera guay
family's
también.
traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice.
Depende de cómo hayan conseguido el dinero, lo veo bien o lo
Nearly
veo mal, ¿eh?
everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Even the Gorgon asteroid, though a distant enigma to most of Hacion, felt the aftershocks of your actions. Olivia and Minnie Ambrose worked together to cure the marauders Adrena Time had created. Through their partnership as scientist and administrator, they discovered the harmony that had eluded them as mother and daughter. And through years of patience and effort, they discovered a means to wean Halcyon from the scourge of Adrena Time. Their work eventually allowed Wells and his scientists to treat many of Halcyon's marauders. As their addiction waned, the colonists who had lived for so long under the thrall of Adrena Time returned to their communities and loved ones, and joined in the effort to save Halcyon. In spite of everything, the Gorgon asteroid remained a sobering reminder of the potential for progress and disaster in humanity's most ambitious efforts. The Rizzo's company in Halcyon dissolved after the collapse of the board. Needless to say, the launch of Spectrum Brown was indefinitely delayed. A stockpile of Spectrum Brown remains buried deep beneath the ruins of the old
Aquí me faltan
distillery,
misiones para hacer allí, ¿eh?
abandoned to time and attrition. With the dissolution of the board, Ruth Bellamy found herself without the two constants in her life: Byzantine culture and her sister Belinda. In the face of this new reality, she struggled to find a direction for her life. The colony had moved on from Halcyon Helen and would require new heroes in the years to come. And so Ruth Bellamy decided it was time to exit stage left. she quietly disappeared from public view. The dissolution of the board did not mean the dissolution of the ambitions of Cedric Kincannon, the charismatic leader of Sublight Underground. Cedric offered Slug's transportation services to the newly thawed colonists and set to work ferrying resources and food wherever they were most needed. For better or worse, slug headgear became fashionable in the following years. As the board began to disintegrate, Spencer Woolrich found himself at a crossroads. Cling to what little stardom remained to him, or help usher Halcyon into its new future. To the surprise of many, perhaps himself most of all, Spencer chose the latter option. Having learned a variety of different skills in the many different roles played throughout his lengthy career, Spencer founded a radio serial dedicated to staying alive despite the odds. His subjects included how to survive violent encounters with only grazing wounds, dispense pithy one-liners for tense scenarios, and, of course, how to look good doing both. After a brief attempt at dating Helen as one person rather than two, which both Bertie and Helen found too strange, Bertie struck out on his own to try his hand at raising woolly cows. Many of his former Rangers teammates soon followed, accompanied by the woolly cow the team had originally
Se ha hecho ganadero, el tío.
The dairy farm thrived under Bertie's leadership and care. The dairy rangers privately believed that the woolly cows softened Bertie's temper considerably. Although the only one brave enough to say this to his face was promptly headbutted. Due to the board's dissolution, many of the Prophet's old customers no longer found quite the same value in productivity seminars that they once had. With her business drying up, the Prophet chose to take her followers down a new path. Months later, salvagers on Eridanos found clues leading them to a seemingly abandoned bunker out in the wilderness.
Coño.
Inside, they discovered horribly mangled corpses, sacrificed to a blood-scrawled portrait of a sprat-headed deity.
Las creencias son peligrosas, siempre lo he dicho, siempre se llevan al lado radical.
Your influence shifted Ellie's perspective. She finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, that she just might need other people. Sometimes. With a steady income from the life insurance payouts, she was finally able to afford a ship of her own. She hired a small crew and flew supply missions to communities on the fringe. Some of them were even legal. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done,
Lo hemos utilizado
he
poco,
was there
Felix,
to help.
pero...
Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a
Estos tienen que estar en mi
revolution was
consejo,
done
¿no?
with two hands.
No, a ver qué pasa.
As much as he enjoyed his adventures aboard the Unreliable, the vicar, known as Max, eventually decided that it was time to move on, to live out the life he had sought so long to create. He knew there were many in the colony who carried burdens much worse than the ones he had struggled with, and he devoted himself to easing their suffering wherever he could. He only ever took up arms again to defend the defenseless, unshackled from a lifetime of striving and fighting the universe and himself. Vicar Maximilian de Soto was
Es que
finally
Vicario es uno de los
Though
mejores, Parvati.
Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her
Hostia, ¿y con
childhood.
Chun-Li no llegó más?
While the colony fell into chaos, she found an island of relative peace with Ada, and they formed an unusual bond. She decided to remain aboard the Unreliable permanently as its chief and sole engineer. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a permanent life for herself. She formed the Charon Group, an MSI subsidiary of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide, or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories, could find her camping on the trail, or clearing an infestation. The SAM unit that accompanied you spread awareness of the product line's superior sanitation and maintenance capabilities across what was left of the colony. This led to a boost in SAM unit sales. Did you know that SAM units are the longest-lasting, toughest-acting cleaning solution in Hacion?
Que pegaba fuerte,
Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Hacion manage the crisis before it.
No he matado a Rockwell,
As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. He eventually came to terms with his own past, and was able to forgive the mistakes of his younger self by devoting his remaining years to serving the colony.
Me recuerda a un cliente ese tío.
Dr. Wells was able to revive many more scientists and engineers than he first expected, thanks to the additional batch of chemicals you stole from the Ministry. Wells never forgot about the human lives that were lost in acquiring these chemicals. In the end, Dr. Wells was able to save every scientist and engineer aboard the Hope. Over the next decade, nearly all of the Hope's remaining colonists were successfully revived. Hacion saw a period of rapid technological and scientific advancement. Breakthroughs in dietary supplements saved the colony from starvation. Geoengineering projects and social reforms began to change the structure and character of the colony. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later.
Bueno,
His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Today, Halcyon has stabilized. The people of the colony work hard to adapt to their new circumstances. Nearby colonies send aid and supplies. Life will never be easy in Halcyon, but for the first time in its history, there exists a sense of real, genuine hope about the future. And what about you? The unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon. Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you.
Falta un cuarto de hora.
No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.
O sea que en la segunda parte será el tema de la Tierra, supongo. Bueno, pues hasta aquí el juego. A ver, para mí ha sido un juegazo, ¿eh? A mí este juego me gustó mucho cuando lo jugué en la Xbox. Creo que fue en la Xbox 360 o en la Xbox One, ya tengo dudas, porque hace muchos años que salió en el Game Pass. Cuando lo vi aquí en Epic Games gratuito, en lo de Navidad, digo, ¡buah! Hay que hacer el juego entero y ponerlo otra vez. Lástima que los que habéis visto algún episodio, los que a lo mejor algún día veis este vídeo, hasta aquí, ¿no? O la serie completa, no, seguramente no lo disfrutáis como yo lo he disfrutado, ¿no? No transmito bien, ¿no? La sensación de lo bien que me lo he pasado con este juego. Lo que sí os puedo decir es, lo recomiendo, descargaros el juego, comprároslo, haced lo que queráis, pero jugarlo, es un juegazo para mí. Y cuando salga el 2, será uno de la lista, igual como todos los Fallouts, que para mí, desde el Fallout 1 hasta el 76, los he jugado todos. Y no es que haya jugado un poquito, he jugado, ¿no? Muchísimo más que este, he jugado a los Fallouts. Pero este es un juego que, para mí, alucinante. Lo que me gustaría que tuviera un final abierto para poder seguir haciendo las otras misiones, ¿no? Pero claro, tal como termina, ya está claro, ¿no? Te dice cómo se desarrolla la vida después. Está muy bien, pero bueno, tal como se desarrolla después, te podrían dejar, pues, yo qué sé, dar un poquito, hablar, tener alguna otra misión. Lo cual ya sería alargar el juego. No obstante, aquí se queda el vídeo. Muchas gracias por haber seguido hasta aquí. Y nada, gente, nos vemos. A ver si se termina esto. Y nada, lo dejamos aquí, gente. O sea que... Uy. Perdonad. Lo he dicho, que viene otro. Ahora sí. Pues gente, hasta aquí la serie. Nos vemos en breve. No sé qué voy a hacer, qué voy a colgar y tal. A lo mejor volvemos al LOL. Hacemos algo de Minecraft. He estado haciendo cosillas en Minecraft, pero no con los servidores que estáis acostumbrados de polillas. Nos hemos perdido un evento de polillas. No hemos podido estar por temas personales. Hace ya días. Pero bueno, lo que os iba a decir. No sé qué voy a subir próximamente. No sé si subiré LOL. Enseñaré algo de Minecraft. Haremos Among Us con Briox. No lo sé, depende. Me tienen que coincidir los horarios y todo un poco. Y está muy complicado. A lo mejor será que algo de LOL, que hace tiempo que no jugamos. Y a ver los paquetes que me he vuelto a volver. Más de lo que era. Pues ahora sí, gente, nos despedimos. Hasta luego.